This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Join the sexual evolution and get ready for Sex is Medicine. Formerly known as Better Love and Sex, Sex is Medicine is your #1 resource for holistic sex education. Explore the connection between sexuality and spirituality, pleasure and personal growth. Discover the art of using pleasure as medicine and reclaim your birthright to more joy, more pleasure, and more satisfaction in every area of your life. Every week on Sex is Medicine with Devi Ward.
Good evening. I am Devi Ward, and you are listening to Sex is Medicine, your #1 resource for holistic sex education. We're going to talk about an issue that affects so many women, myself included, on occasion throughout my life. It's estimated that at least 3 out of 4 women experience some form of vaginal pain during intercourse in their lives. I know it's certainly something that I've experienced, and I have, to help us with this issue, my lovely new co-founder of Tibetan Tantra Inc., Martha Schneider. Say hello, Martha.
Hello, everybody.
And Martha specializes in helping women heal vaginal pain. She is a what are you? A psychotherapist, body psychotherapist, physiotherapist?
Yes, you can call it a body psychotherapist. It's like holistic physiotherapy. It's a Scandinavian brand of physiotherapy. Work with the whole body and the mind as well.
That is amazing. And so Martha is in Norway. I like to call her my Viking goddess. She's glorious and powerful, just like a Viking warrior of love. Maybe that's racist, but I don't care.
I think it's fine. It's cool.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to talk about not just what vaginal pain is, because a lot of us already know what it is. It's pain, but how to heal it, how to resolve it, and some of the most important factors that contribute to it. Given from Martha's perspective, from her level of expertise. But before we do that, we are going to start the show by answering a question, and I'm very excited about this question. This gentleman's been waiting a really long time for me to answer this on air for him. Martha and I are going to take a stab at it. We are both certified tantrikas, and we are both sexuality experts, so we're allowed to answer these kinds of questions. So here it is. Is it okay for my female partner or women in general to seek orgasmic expression with another woman if that is her desire? I am fine with that if it helps cultivate her higher self. I am not sure if you addressed woman-to-woman enlightenment, but it would seem that with women's connection to each other, plus an unlimited capacity for orgasm, this would warrant exploration. Any thoughts would be great as well. So, Martha, what are your thoughts on this, on the topic of woman-to-woman lovemaking?
So, my thoughts on that is, to answer his question simply, definitely a yes, because when women are with women, there's, I have to speak from personal experience that it's a very safe space to be in terms of if you have if you're prone to feel pressure, if you're with a man, because he's the one who penetrates, then to be with a woman is a very safe place to be. And also to know that the other person can tell what you're feeling, because she's the same kind.
Beautiful.
To have that mirror effect going on, I think that opens up for an exploration of great mutual understanding and appreciation.
And you speak from experience.
I do.
We won't go too deeply into that, though.
Yeah.
So,
what do you think?
So I'm going to clarify a couple things. So number one, we're talking about cisgender women in this instance. So this is women who were born with female genitalia and identify as female, as woman. And this is also, we're talking about a heterosexual relationship. So this is a male partner married to a female partner wanting to know if it's okay for his wife to play with other women. And so there's a couple things going on. There's that question right there, like the baseline, is it okay for women to play together sexually? And then the second question that I'm hearing in there is it okay for my wife, someone that I'm married to and committed to play with another woman? So I would have to say on both topics, what feels right for you? That's the determining factor. Like, there is no tantric moral judge overseeing you. In my opinion, there's no wrathful God overseeing us. It's all a case of, are you living in integrity with yourself? Are your actions, your words, your speech, your thoughts, are they in alignment? And is this going to support your relationship? Is it going to support your relationship with yourself? Is it going to support your relationship with as a couple? Is it going to be supportive of whoever you bring into your situation, your dynamic? So I say, stay connected to your body, stay connected to each other, trust your intuition, and come from love. Come from a place of loving kindness, come from a place of compassion, and come from a place of curiosity and exploration. And in my experience, you kind of can't lose. Because if you're playing with your friends, and this is part of the expression of plays. You're going to make love and share pleasure and give each other pleasure. It's a really beautiful thing. So I say, if it feels good to you and it's in integrity and it causes no harm, then please enjoy it. Then the second question from same person is has to do with bringing a younger man. So this gentleman, just to give you some backstory, this gentleman is I believe he's 58, heterosexual cisgender male, and he's asking about bringing a younger man into our relationship for my partner's pleasure. She's very much interested in this, and he would enjoy watching them fully enjoy each other. Is that weird on my part? So what do you think about this, Martha?
I think that if he thinks that enjoy watching them enjoy each other, then he should trust that.
Yes, beautiful.
I also hear a concern for what does the general society think. Is there an authority that can make me wrong in wanting to do this? And I think that the more we can try to just steer clear of any thoughts, any worries about what other people may think, and focus on what you were saying. If it feels like it's within integrity with yourself, then why not? If it's not harming any beings, why not? Yeah. Especially, I mean, I don't know what the wife is thinking or desiring, but if this is a mutual desire for them to have her enjoy a younger male in their space, then I see no reason why they shouldn't.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And I'm going to throw a little tantric knowledge your way. So, pardon me, from the Taoist culture, it was actually considered one of the best ways for a woman to recover her vital chi after childbearing, for her to have sex with a number of like 18, 19, 20-year-old men and have them ejaculate inside of her. And that was a prescription for recovering her chi after giving birth to children, because when men ejaculate, they lose their vital essence, but the way women, quote unquote, lose their vital essence is through menstruation and childbearing. So yeah, I can't cite the cultures off the top of my head, but through my studies, there has been, paragraphs and chapters, whatever, devoted to how it was very common in some ancient sacred sexual cultures to, yes, have their female partners with a younger male, or to have, the male partners with a younger female, because the younger people have a different kind of life essence and a different kind of that we can find nourishing for our bodies. So it's all, it comes down to using sex as medicine and understanding that sex is yoga, and it's an energy exchange, not just a physical exchange. So as far as you enjoying watching her, you know what? There's a whole community of people, swingers. devoted, who are people that enjoy watching their partners give and receive pleasure with other people. So are you alone in this? Absolutely not. There's whole communities of people that love this. I think it's a very natural thing. I mean, I personally, when the feeling is right and the feeling is good between all people, I can find great pleasure in watching my pleasure receive or give pleasure to another woman or another man. You know, I mean, sometimes that's even hotter.
Mm-hmm.
And then to finish up, there was another part of the question that gentleman sent me regarding, how would it be weird for if his wife is with another guy, would it be weird for him as a man to want to play with this other guy too? And again, what you're coming up against are your cultural conditioning, telling you what's okay for you to do with your sexuality. So I'm going to make a stand for all of us, and our sexuality, that we get to choose what is okay for us in regards to our sexuality. Not our culture, not our society, not our parents, not our peers, but you and your primary partner together get to decide what's going to work in your bedroom. And it's nobody else's business what happens there. So if you're asking for reassurance or advice or permission, again, same thing that I said before in regards to playing your female partner playing with another female. If it feels good to you, I encourage you to explore it. Just communicate. Just talk to each other. Just check in and make sure it's feeling good for everybody. And if something comes, a conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, if it's bringing joy, if it's bringing pleasure, and it's causing no harm, only good can come from it, in my opinion, especially when it comes to our sexual intimacy. So, you have my support and my celebration to explore. Woohoo!
Mine too.
And Martha's, both of us, the Tibetan Tantric Dakis. Yeah. We hit you over the head with our staff of of wishes granted, permission granted. So
yeah, and can I add something, Devi?
Please do.
I also think that this gentleman can tap himself on the shoulder for being mature enough to. At least I find it quite mature when a man is able to recognize his desires when they are different from the norm, and also that these desires are quite selfless.
Yeah.
To desire love's partner, even if it's not the result of him pleasuring her, that's very selfless. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Wow. Thank you, Martha. That was beautiful. Thank you for pointing that out and celebrating that part, because that's very, very beautiful. I love that. Yay. Okay. So let's talk about, enough about pleasure. Let's talk about pain.
Yeah, certainly. Let's talk about pain.
So would you be willing to just give our audience a little background about what you do and where you come from?
Okay, yes. So I am a trained physiotherapist from Norway, and I've specialized in this kind of physiotherapy, which I call holistic. You might call it body-mind physiotherapy. So not just the body is treated, but the mind and also the spirit. So we kind of acknowledge that whenever we have some kind of pain or stress factor, it affects all systems, and to treat them as one unit. And so after having specialized in this, I went on to study Tibetan Tantra with you, Devi. And first and foremost, for my own sake, because I realized that in my work as a therapist, I came across more and more women and some men who had history of sexual trauma. And I realized that since this area of my life was not healed, because I've been exposed to sexual trauma myself, I wasn't able to be a therapist for them in those cases. So I realized I need to feed myself now, and then I can feed others. So that was a period of learning and growing, and then that has allowed me to be of service in areas where I was shying away. So that's my background in terms of what I've studied, and now I'm working in a clinic where I collaborate a lot with gynecologists and some urologists, and we try to together help women who have these conditions of pain in the vulva or vagina.
So let's talk about vaginal pain then. So what are some different kinds of vaginal pain that are going to show up in your office?
Mm-hmm. So it's like when we talk of vaginal pain or vulvar pain, there's a lot of different diagnoses that kind of fit into that category. So it can be pain that is quite new and acute. It can be pain that has had or been kind of become chronic. So it's been there for months or even years. It might be isolated to just the introitus or the vaginal opening, or it may be also inside. Some women also experience pain in the lower abdomen or even in the lower back in conjunction with pain in the vulva or vagina. The pain might be there at all times, even when walking and sitting, or if it's not that bad, it's pain maybe during only insertion of a tampon or during sexual intercourse. Some women also experience that they have a burning sensation when they're peeing, as if it was a urinary tract infection, which makes both patients and sadly doctors confuse it with urinary tract infections, and then they often get wrong diagnosis and treat something they don't have, meaning antibiotics maybe several times before they actually come to someone who can give them a proper diagnosis.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's a variety of different ways it shows up. Now, you said so that's vaginal pain and urethral pain. What about just like does it ever happen that just like the vulva, the external part, hurts?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oftentimes it's right next to the vaginal opening on the inner labia. Mm-hmm. It can also be on the outer labia, but I find most of the women that come to me for treatment, they have pain just very near the vaginal opening and on the internal labia.
Okay. And so, as you said, so it's something that could, like a woman could go her whole life and not experience vaginal pain, and then all of a sudden start experiencing it. So in that kind of case, what causes that? Just all of a sudden?
Mm-hmm. Causes are sometimes hard to find or to determine what is the actual cause, which is to do with, I need to talk a little bit about pain, because this is a condition of pain, and then it's necessary to understand that pain is it's a multifaceted kind of phenomenon. The pain is in the brain, is a saying, and it's very true. It means that whatever signals are being sent to the brain from the body, the brain decides whether this will be interpreted as pain or something else. And the interpretation of the signals from the body are very much affected by what the person thinks about the sensation. Any history of trauma from before, if there are other stress factors in a person's life at the same moment. And so sometimes if this comes, like you say, what if this person has never had vaginal pain and then all of a sudden it's there? Then maybe there is danger to the tissue, that maybe there is burn from friction, maybe there is compression. So maybe after childbirth, some part of the tissue has been compressed very much and is needing to heal. Maybe there's a tear from friction, and maybe there's an infection. Those are possible acute reasons for the pain to just kind of show up.
Can I pause you there? So what kind of infection would cause pain during intercourse?
Bacterial vaginosis is one option. There are so many different kinds of alien visitors that can come onto our skin and our mucous membranes. So whenever the mucous membrane is the immune system there is weakened, it might react to a number of different what to say. English is not my first language, but
alien visitors.
Exactly.
My reaction.
Yeah. For lack of better words, yes.
Those damn aliens.
Yeah. So a key here is not to jump too far. I know we're going to talk about treatment later, but so to keep the mucous membrane healthy is key.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we won't sidetrack into how to do that. We'll stay focused. So that's just one example I gave of like a woman, it doesn't experience pain for her whole life, and then all of a sudden she experiences some vaginal pain or pain during penetration. So it could be a variety of different factors. Now, what about women who have like chronic, like most of their lives? What's causing that from what you've observed?
Yeah, that happens that's the case in the majority of the women that come to me for treatment. So what I observe with these women, it's either that it's when it's chronic, the pain is like a circuit. So there is sensation that reaches the brain. The brain interprets this as pain, and in conjunction with that, there are thought patterns, associations to that pain's feeling, and belief systems that kind of amplify the pain. So it's like a volume dial that you turn up, so the pain becomes worse, and then the brain will always try to save the organism, so to speak. Will always try to listen for pain, because that's a sign of danger. Mm-hmm. So it will send out a reaction in response to that pain, which is contract, defend yourself, run away from there. And if you can't run, what can you do? You can basically curl up into a little ball, which means that in the local tissue where the pain is, the signals from the brain go there and tell the tissue to contract.
Mm-hmm. And
then you have decreased blood flow and all those things that make the whole circuit of signals that go back to the brain tell, oh, it's even worse now, and then you have it going.
Right. So it's this like feedback loop that just continuously reinforces itself. And this is what we call body armoring in Tantra.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And what is kind of tricky with the brain is that it might just decide over time that, okay, I'm just going to interpret all kinds of signals from the vulva, if that's the case, as pain, no matter what they are. I'm just going to conclude that that's it, because this pain has been here now for such a long time that I have to kind of make the person, I have to turn up the dial even more so that this is being taken seriously.
Right. Yeah. To protect, because ultimately that's survival. It's a survival mechanism. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you say that it's the brain interpreting the sensation as pain, because when I was studying with the people down at the Welcome Consensus who teach deliberate orgasm, one of the key things they shared was that pain or pleasure is simply your interpretation of pressure. That was so phenomenal. So not to negate anybody's pain. Like if you have your arm cut off, that's, don't just say, oh, it's just pressure. Get over it, right? But that was really, really helpful for me, because I knew for me, like there were some areas of my body that I simply did not want to inhabit, because every time I started to feel into them, I would interpret it as pain. And so when I had this awareness, like, oh no, when I could look at it as just pressure, as this neutral I literally became more embodied in certain areas of my body, because I stopped resisting and pulling away from the pain. I just allowed it to be pressure. And then from that, it became a completely neutral experience.
Exactly. That's a beautiful example.
Yeah.
Of how you can change the way the brain interprets the signal by using, awareness, using affirmation that I'm stroking, I'm not stabbing with a knife,
Yes.
These kinds of, just using all the senses, and also use verbal speech to affirm what is actually happening, so that you actually, it's a bit like having a child on your lap who's crying and it's impossible to make the crying go away, and you just need to kind of stroke them until they feel safe enough to stop crying.
Stroke and soothe, like stroke and
soothe.
And murmur of it, like soft words, like it's okay. It's okay. So that's why. So what has your experience been using the ocean breath? Because you're a trained tantrika, and so one of the methods that you're trained in is using the ocean breath to open and heal and release this trauma. Have you found that to be a successful technique for you?
Very, very much so. The really great thing about the ocean breath is that it addresses one of the systems in the body that is so much affected by pain, which is the breath. So whenever there is pain in the body, the breath will kind of become held. And when the breath is held, then in order for that to happen, the body needs to tense up a certain system of muscles that are connected to the breath. So all the muscles in the torso kind of is like a cylinder that kind of closes down. And so we have a cap in the bottom of our cylinder torso, which is the vagina, or the muscles.
Pelvic floor.
Thank you. Pelvic floor muscles. That's the bottom cap. And the top cap in relationship to breath is the throat. For example, if you try to swallow, you cannot breathe in or out at the same time. That's a way for us to close off. And also, if we clench our teeth and put our tongue at the roof of the palate with force, that's also a way to hold our breath.
Oh, okay.
You know, what do we say when we need to just summon our energy and do something even though it's uncomfortable or stressful or painful? We pull ourselves together.
Pull ourselves in, just tighten everything up, contract, and just fuck through it. Just get through it. Roar!
Exactly.
Exactly.
So that's what happens when we have pain. We hold the breath, so we tense up around the jaw and the neck and inside the throat, which sends the to the diaphragm and also the pelvic floor to also contract, so that we're holding our container, preventing or protecting ourselves from the pain. So the ocean breath, which is to breathe with a sigh on the exhalation and an open mouth, like that, is telling the brain that, oh, I sound as if I'm safe. It's kind of coaxing the nervous system back into the parasympathetic mode, which is to do with relaxation, safety, pleasure. It's the opposite of producing adrenaline and being in fight or flight mode. So the ocean breath helps the person to have a continual contact with themselves by actually being aware of the breath. Because if you can't make sound, it means that you've stopped breathing. So it's an affirmation to the body and the nervous system that we're safe, I'm right here, I'm breathing in and out, and it's safe to relax, even to make sound. And it helps them to kind of break the pattern of clenching their jaw and putting the tongue up to the roof of the mouth and tensing the neck, which then reflexively helps the pelvic floor relax.
Wow, what a beautiful mechanism. So the ocean breath was developed by Carla Terra, a tantrika from New York, who gave me transmission in it and trained me in it, then gave me permission to share it with other people. So thank you, Carla. And if you want to learn more about the ocean breath, she wrote a beautiful book called The Ocean, Oshun, Breath, where she describes where it came from and why it's yummy to use. So woohoo, Carla. So Martha is sharing with us the causes and symptoms of vaginal pain, but now we're going to talk about how to heal that, how to treat it. So in your experience working with women who have both chronic, well, let's start with chronic vaginal pain, because I'm wondering, I guess here's a question, like when you're dealing with chronic vaginal pain, is the treatment different than acute vaginal pain?
Yes, it is. And that's to do with the causes. Can I just say a little bit more about causes before we move into the treatment?
You can say whatever you want.
Great, because it's really tied into the the state of this condition when it's chronic. Yeah, when it's chronic. And so if the person has had this over a long time, most commonly they have a belief pattern around what the pain means, and very often they think that they're broken, that this is going to maybe destroy their relationship to their partner. They have a strong fear of that, or maybe they are single and they fear that they will never have a partner and be able to enjoy sex with their partner. Even a lot of these women are young, so a lot of them are fearing that they will never have family. So like, when you think of how much it ties into it becomes pretty big in their lives. And so a common very, very often as a part of the cause for how it's and why it's become chronic is that they have a lack of knowledge about sexuality and their own pleasure. Very often they misunderstand female ejaculation or the urge to ejaculate themselves, and they mistake it for being just a need to pee. So they're using their way too strong, often, pelvic floor muscles to prevent themselves from peeing during sex. And so that's further strengthening that cycle of pain. And also they also often don't know what they need in order to feel arousal and to get full blood flow throughout the whole erogenous zones. Very often there's a lack of communication, that they're really not able to explain to another person what they want or what they need, and also to set boundaries.
Wow. So like a disconnect, like a inherent disconnect from their own sexuality. And then because of that, they receive, touch or some whatever penetration before they're ready. And it just sets up this whole cycle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So what they really need first and foremost is to kind of get clear and aware of what they believe. Because what I always do at the beginning is I have a conversation, and that might last for the first full conversation is an hour. It's a conversation about sexuality with themselves, with their partner, if they have one. Need to get clear about their beliefs, of course, and if they have any boundary issues. What are their relationships like, not just with sexual partners, but also with other people in their lives? Are they able to stand their ground and set boundaries? What about other health-related issues? And also really physical things, like, are they able to control the passing of urine if they need to? Are they also able to fully relax? And when they sit down at the toilet, is the pelvic floor so tight that it's hard to pee? Do they have to push the urine out, or can they actually voluntarily relax? So all these questions tell me what state the pelvic floor muscles are in.
Wow. So their relationships with other people will trans to how tense or relaxed their pelvic floor is. That is so phenomenal. Like it's so holistic. It's so inclusive of everything. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and I bring that with me into the examination, which is a physical examination where I always observe the breathing pattern. So whenever, if I'm dealing with a person who I know has had sexual trauma at a young age, I know that the trauma or the abuse happened at a stage in life where they were not as, they were so young, they were children. So the ability to escape or to get out of the situation is very often very weakened when you're a child, because the power dynamic is just so at your disadvantage. So when I touch them, I always check in, does it feel like when I touch it like this? And if I see that they start to hold their breath, it's telling me that something is not quite right, So during the examination, it's really important that me and the patient establish a very two-way communication where we always try to kind of help the person to become aware of the subtle reactions that they're having.
Mm-hmm. That we're most often not aware of, especially when we are traumatized, because one of the functions of trauma is to disconnect us from the body. That's how it acts. So, So, wow. So, in your treatment, could you share a little bit more about how you treat this? And I'm curious to know how you've. I didn't want this to be a conversation about Tantra, but I'm so curious to know how you've woven Tantra into the work that you do, and what the results are from that. How you see that impacting people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the treatment needs to be tailored to each specific person, obviously, because their histories are so different. I could mention different examples that are really different. We'll see how much time we have. But one of the ways that I weave Tantra in is when it comes to the women that are ready for reclaiming their relationship to their sexuality, if that's part of the story, which makes this pain become chronic, that they are disempowered, they don't know their own pleasure, they are not able to communicate to their partners because they simply don't know, or even sometimes they can't feel. Mm-hmm. So to help them with that, since I, as a physical therapist, I'm not the one to awaken their pleasure zones when they're in treatment with me. They need to do that themselves. Mm-hmm. So then I teach them how to meditate, holding one hand on the vulva and one hand on the heart, and just be present with their breathing while they're having physical contact with their vulva. Mm-hmm. So that first stage is very, very profound for most people if they have kind of developed an aversion to their own sexuality.
And how important is touch? Like, how important is it that people actually, like you describe that connection, hand to heart, hand to vulva, actually touching the vulva, but then also like moving beyond that, like actually using touch to release these areas of pain? How important is that?
Well, I think it's very, very important. And the way that I understand this from my physiotherapy training and what I know about the neural pathways and how pain works in the central nervous system is that when you apply touch to an area that has, I'm going to try and use normal terms, that where the signals from that particular area of the body are misinterpreted in the brain as pain. So if you then apply gentle stroking without friction, using coconut oil on the vulva and just stroking very gently and using loving touch, then if you're able to also use the tantric method of staying present, which is meditation, and also to use the ocean breath to make sure that you're still breathing and you're in fact also breathing in a relaxed way, then you can reprogram the way the brain is interpreting the sensations that are coming to it from the vulva in that very moment, so that the paths that are already there can kind of be reprogrammed. Yeah. Exactly.
Reprogrammed. So you're literally again reprogramming the nervous system.
Yep.
Using touch, using breath, using awareness. So that's what we call in here in the States, we call that somatic healing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is something, it's so easy. It can be applied by anyone if they just have the knowledge, and it can be applied to any part of the body. And it's so mainstream to do this now, except with sexuality. And these women, there is no default kind of pattern as to where do you seek help, and there's no guarantee that the helper will set you up with this kind of approach, because it's still quite new in the health society or health system. how to treat these patients is still being researched, and there's a lot of taboo around the whole issue of sexuality.
Yes, and using pleasure as medicine. So it is a new orientation. It's a new approach, the idea of using pleasure as medicine, at least in the field that you're working in.
Yeah, very much so.
And what you're finding, though, is it's so effective. It's not even like orgasmic pleasure. It's just this gentle stroking, breath awareness, relaxing, like allowing yourself to enjoy the experience, be present with the moment. Just that simple, sweet pleasure in and of itself is healing, is medicine.
Yeah, but I also teach women how to do vulva massage fully, and also to translate the pleasure from the clitoris over to the Gspot area, because most of these women are suffering from pain during intercourse. So for them, it's necessary to find a way to feel pleasure without having the nervous system go, oh shit, this danger usually means that we're going to have some penetration soon, and that's going to be awful. Wow. So they need to return to that state of high degree of arousal and pleasure, and gain experience that they can stay there over time without fucking through pain at the same time.
Wow. So you're you're reconditioning this area that was so painful before, and you're translating the pleasure from the clitoris or another erogenous zone, another highly pleasurable zone, translating it to the area that it's painful, to reprogram that area.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And for most of these women, they don't even know that they have a G-spot, or they maybe think that they are their G-spot is kind of lost, or I don't know, broken. So for them, just to learn that they have a G-spot, it's exactly here, and it can be completely mute, it can be very painful, and it can be extremely pleasurable. And all of those three things are normal.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you're feeling, it just means that your nervous system is telling you some kind of message.
Wow. And that message, when we learn how to interpret that message, when we learn how to read the signals that our body is giving us, then we understand that the body isn't broken, it's simply doing its job.
Mm-hmm. And simply to realize that you're not broken, for most people, most women, makes the pain decrease enormously.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what are the results that you've seen from women who have been able to heal through, overcome, quote unquote, this type of pain? Who are they, and what are they on the other side of that?
Mm-hmm. So these women are very often very young. We're talking between the ages of 16 and 27, 8, and even a lot of women up to the age of 65, 70. But I see that there is a concentration in the younger ages. Mm-hmm. So when they start treatment, if they are in a relationship, they are pretty miserable. They do not have sex with their partner, or they are pushing themselves to have intercourse, even though it's excruciatingly painful. So they're kind of sacrificing their own pleasure in order to deserve the other person's loving touch, because they think they have to. Mm-hmm. So they're very disempowered and feel very low self-esteem. And then in the other end, they know how to express their boundaries. They know how to ask for what they need in order to feel arousal and have the kind of use the pleasure as a guide for themselves and their partner. And they can experience orgasms with themselves or with their partner. Mm-hmm. And it changes their life completely, especially in those cases where they've kind of connected the pain to the fear that they will never have kids. I mean, it's so extreme. So when you can take that away from their shoulders, it's like they grow 1 meter longer, and life is just amazing.
Wow.
So, mm-hmm.
So it allows it impacts not just their sexuality, but their entire lives. There's a sense of freedom, joy, openness, like confidence, I'm hearing.
And inspiration.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. To go from pain to that is phenomenal.
Yeah, it really is.
Wow.
It really is.
Wow. Well, unfortunately, we are at the end of our time together. And if you want to send us some more so that we can answer your question live on air, you can send it to Devi at DeviWordTantra.com. You can, again, stay in touch with me at DeviWordTantra.com, Devi Word Tantra on Facebook and Twitter, and listen to the replay on iTunes and TuneIn.com. Much love, many blessings. Have a wonderful weekend. Good night.
Night. Bye.
You've been listening to Sex is Medicine with Devi Ward, your #1 resource for holistic sex education. Listen to the replay of this and every show at medicinesex.com. That's medicinesex.com. And send your questions for Devi to answer live on the air. Connect with Devi directly at DeviWardTantra.com. That's DEVIWARD Tantra.com. And remember to follow Devi Ward Tantra on Facebook and Twitter.